Welcome everyone to Raw Dog Game Reviews. I'm the Raw Dog, and this is what we do here at Raw Dog Game Reviews. I'm going to review a game I recently played. But here's the catch. There's no script and no editing. I'm just going to ramble on my review for the game, off the top of my head, off the cuff if you will. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to it, and let's go in Raw Dog. Okay, this time we're looking at Black Myth Wukong. Yeah, baby. We're doing this one like everybody's doing this one. The craziness of the Wukong game. This game is amazing. Now, I actually was interviewed for this, and I have a review out of it, like a first impressions, I guess, out of it from a friend of mine who does, articles in China. So yeah, I'm kind of hyped about this. Now, I love this game. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's awesome. It deserves all the praise it gets. It's an amazing game. I have to say, it's an amazing game. If you're sitting there thinking, oh, it's hyped up, is it worth the hype? I'm telling you right now, it's worth the hype. The game is good. It's just a solid, good action RPG. It is good. It is a very good game. Now, the one thing I would say is that I know tons of people online are being like, oh, yo, game of the year. Now, I'm a ridiculous, crazy Final Fantasy VII buff, so it's not my game of the year. But I'll tell you right now, it's in the top 5. Like, the game is amazing. Honestly, it'd probably be in the top 3. But seriously, though, the game is really just really good. It definitely deserves all the praise it gets. It's a really amazing game. If you like action RPGs, if you like Souls, if you like action games, actually, then yeah, you can get it because it'll be right up your alley. I say it that way because there's different kinds of games. We have Devil May Cry's, Bayonettas, Ninja Gaidens. Those are action games. Their focus is on the action. You don't really level up. You progress through the game by finding new equipment through bosses and new spells through bosses and things like that. That's what the DMC is very heavy on that. You find new items that basically progress you and things like that. Now, and they're very dodge heavy too. So those are the action adventure games. This is an action adventure game in that manner. It focuses a lot more on those kind of things. From a lot of bosses, you will find new equipment, you will find new things, and you'll kind of progress through the game with that. But the game also takes a lot of cues from Souls, where it has a gourd, which I'm using air quotes because it is a gourd, but it's basically a flask. It's basically your flask in the game, and you use it to heal in the same way you would use it to heal in a Souls game. Which, when I say Souls game, I mean Souls, Bloodborne, Neo. Let's see, how many other thousands of Souls games are? Yeah, I mean all those kind of Souls games. Lies of P, all the games that function in the same exact way that a Souls does. So, yeah. It has the flask, and it has the bonfires, which in this one is shrines. Every time you visit a shrine, the game will give you your health back and your MP back and all your stamina, all that stuff, and all the enemies will respawn. All those things will happen just like any Souls game. So it takes a lot of those cues from Souls, where it has the flask and it has the shrines, just like in Neo. So guess what? Guess what's next? It also has a ton of bosses. I think the count was like 80 something. So yes, again, Souls. Souls, it has a ton of bosses. The DLC alone for Erdtree, Shadow of the Erdtree, has 80 something bosses. Now, I've heard people you could definitely compare it to like I just said, Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, God of War as well. But now those games do have I think 10 bosses at most. It's been a long time since I've played Devil May Cry, but you have each chapter has a boss, and there's 10 chapters. So you have 10 bosses, maybe 20 at most. So having 80 is more of a Souls thing. So I would definitely say that the game is more like a Souls, in my opinion. But the combat feels a lot more like an action game. It feels a lot more like DMC. So the combat feels more like a DMC action game or like a Ninja Gaiden. But the gameplay itself and how the game rolls out feels more like a Souls. because you have your flask, you have your shrines, you have your 80s on bosses, and you have your relatively, I never really got confused, but your relatively confusing level layouts in a semi-open world. Each zone is pretty much a semi-open-ish world of that zone, whereas the levels aren't terribly confusing, but they're also not really linear. Like there are a lot of different paths. Hell, in one of the chapters, I'm not gonna spoil it entirely. In one of the chapters, you can go practically right to the boss room, skipping an entire other section of the map, and you literally don't have to go to that section of the map at all. Even though the game kind of makes you think you have to, because it says there's a big door, and the door is like, you need these things to open this door. You don't, because another path just takes you right, past that door, right behind it, and there's the boss. Like there's the boss of the level. So when there are 3 different paths to get to the boss level, one that is a ridiculous shortcut that you can get there without doing like a good 2/3 of the level, that I don't call linear. So yeah, I wouldn't use the word linear, but I also wouldn't say the game is terribly confusing. And as long as you're observative and you take your time with it, you're not really going to get lost. There is no map, but you're not going to get lost. But anyway, let's get more into detail of the gameplay section. I'm kind of going on my preamble, so I don't want to get too deep into gameplay. But anyway, so yes, the game is definitely a action RPG. Because of that, I'm saying this. I think this is what action RPGs just need to be these days. And also, I think it's already become kind of a standard. This is what action RPGs are. The Jedi games are a perfectly good example of this. You grow levels in the Jedi game, and you progress with more Jedi powers, and you have meditation spots, which are shrines. You have your little HP chips from your droid, which are flasks. Guess what? It's like a Souls. So I think pretty much with the new formula for making an action RPG is basically sprinkle a few Souls elements, and the rest of it just keep the standard action adventure feel, and you're good. And I would say that is exactly what this gets. This gets that action adventure feel with a very dodge heavy combat, a lot like DMC, a lot like Bayonetta, a lot like Ninja Gaiden, and the game just feels really good. And it also levels up. It also has a flask, and it also has shrines, and it also has a ton of bosses. So like I said, some soul elements sprinkled in on a base of awesome action adventure gameplay really sets you up. And I would have to say that we kind of already learned that through Nioh. I love Nioh, and I'm a big supporter of the Nioh series. Nioh 1, Nioh 2 are amazing. And I would say, obviously, guess what team made Nioh? Team Ninja. Made Ninja Gaiden, which I just said, this game is definitely like Ninja Gaiden. And I used to say that Nioh was like if Ninja Gaiden and Souls had a baby. Guess what? That's what I'm trying to say here, is that this game is a lot like Nioh. And that means it's awesome, because I love Nioh. It does feel like a Ninja Gaiden Souls-esque game put together, which is what Nioh feels like. So if you like this game and you haven't played Nioh, go play Nioh. Anyway, that's my pitch. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this, because I think I've rambled on my preamble enough. The graphics. The graphics are amazing. The graphics just look really good. Really, really good. That's one of the highest points of this game, and one of the things that everybody is talking about, and I have to agree. The graphics just are stunning. They just look really good. The grass looks really good everywhere, the sky, everything, the foliage, everything just looks really good. And the best part about it is, I'm going to touch on this more in gameplay, but you don't have a map. So because you don't have a map, you actually are forced to look at the graphics that much more, because you have to remember where you are and take good points of I saw that wall before, I saw that statue, I saw that tree, and that I was here before, so I need to go right this time, I need to go left this time. So you have to take in the surroundings a lot more, so you're looking at the surroundings, and the surroundings look beautiful. So yeah, the graphics are on point. It's really good, really nice. It's a very beautiful game to look at. Now, story. The story's good. It's not amazing. The story's good. I'm not going to go praising the story up to the high heavens, because I'll tell you this. The story is good, but it's not something that hasn't been done before. It is a basic reincarnation story. It's very simple, very easy. It is also one of those excuse stories.
they wanted to have the new Monkey King, the new Wukong, go fight a ton of bosses. So they made a very much excuse plot line to be like, hey, go fight bosses. And that's what you do. So the plot served its purpose. The plot is good, but it's not amazing. Also, if you don't know a lot of like Chinese mythology, the plot is going to fall a little bit flatter on you because they make a lot of references to the Journey to the West. And if you're not super on point with the knowledge of Journey to the West, a lot of the references are going to fall flat on you. But I mean, even then, the plot is still enjoyable. See, I'm not very well versed on Chinese mythology. I know of like the very bare basics of Journey to the West, but I don't know too much. But even with that, like the plot was still interesting. It was still fun to go through. It was still an interesting plot line. I was still able to follow it. It still was a lot of fun. But even then, like even though I wasn't too used to the plot line, like it didn't seem too overdone to me. I still knew that like this isn't a unique plot line. This has been done before. I've played a whole bunch of Souls games where basically that does say, hey, you are a reincarnation or you are a new undead creature. You have to go fight all of these bosses and collect these things. And it's like, yep, I know that plot. I'll go do those things. So I'm going to go fight a ton of bosses. Like the plot is kind of basic. It's not very basic, but it's kind of basic. The deeper parts of the plot are in the Chinese lore. So if you don't know those things, it might fall a little bit flat, but you'll still be able to follow along and enjoy it. The basics of the plot are easy to follow along with and easy to enjoy. It's a fun plot. It's not amazing, but it's fun. And now we get into the best part of the game, the gameplay, where obviously that is the 90% of the game of this because you are fighting that many bosses. So the gameplay is very important. So yeah, the gameplay is solid. It's really good. Once you get into a good flow, the game just feels really nice. It gives you a lot of options. It works really well. It's tight. The game they knew what they were doing when they made this game. Now, first off, there's no block. There's no block and there's no parry. Well, technically there's a parry, but there's no block. There's no block button even. So this is a very dodge-heavy game. You don't block, you just dodge everything. And the game gets you very well used to that with obviously throwing you right into combat. So you get to find out that how the dodge functions, where the dodge is. The dodge is very tight and also has a good window of invincibility. So you have some pretty good leeway there. But the only thing I would say that the big downside that I would say is that perfect dodging does not feel super rewarding. I came off recently playing Stellar Blade, which I would say is also in my top 5 for Game of the Year, and that is super rewarding. Every time you perfect dodge, every time you parry, it feels so good, and you get to capitalize off that parry, capitalize off that perfect dodge so well that it makes it feel so rewarding to do those things. In Wukong, you don't really get that, which is saddening, but the game is still good, but that makes the game more just basic, a little bit more like Souls in that manner, where you do have to kind of like learn the boss patterns, get better at it, and also. But then the other way that it's not Souls, like I said, is that it's very dodge heavy and it has a lot of different options for you. When you go through a Souls game, you pick, I'm going to be a Dex main and I'm going to use a katana. That's what I do in Souls, and that is your entire purpose in life. You can maybe take out a bow sometimes. And you basically just dodge, swipe with your katana, dodge, swipe, dodge, swipe. That's your entire game. So, but this game, obviously, because you are Wukong, because it is an action game, you get a lot more spells. You get a lot more things you can do. You have a lot more options in combat. You can transform into other animals. You can transform into deities. You could transform. Well, you could do spirit attacks, which is kind of another transformation, but I don't like calling it transformation because the transformations last for a good long time. Whereas the spirit attacks is just you transform for like half a second, do one attack, and then you're out, or do a sequence of attacks, and then you're out. Anyway, you have those. Then you have spells also. So you have a lot of things in your arsenal that you can use to fight. And because of all those things, the game is not terribly difficult in that same manner. Once you understand these key concepts of the game, one, the game wants you to be aggressive because you can stagger the enemies the more you hit them and the more you hit them with heavies. heavy attacks. So the game wants you to be aggressive. Do not take the game as a slow, oh, let me learn all the patterns. No, you're going to get your butt handed to you a bunch of times and you're going to feel like the game is too hard. Don't do that. Be aggressive. Yes, dodge and be good at the game, but I mean, like, be aggressive. Don't just sit there and think like, oh, I got to dodge, 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 dodge. Where's my opening? Dodge, 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 dodge. No, don't sit there and do that and look for openings like that. Just go ahead and dodge the one time, get one attack in, or dodge 2 times, go hit that heavy, because you've hopefully built up a heavy bar, and now the guy staggers and just load into him with a whole combo, and hopefully you build up another heavy, and at the end of your combo, hit with another heavy. If the guy doesn't stagger again, then you go back to a little bit of dodging, or go into a spell, the freeze spell, freeze the guy, then unload a whole other combo. Then when he finishes being in this free spell, then you unload your big heavy, and guess what? They stagger again, and you basically repeat this process, and you basically just destroy bosses. So yes, you want to use your spells. You want to be aggressive. That is the biggest thing the game tries to teach you early on. So do that. Be aggressive. The only way I would say that you want to be defensive is when you use some of your spells. Like, I use the Cloud Step spell pretty much a lot, primarily, especially late game. Instead of using the Rock Solid, I use the Cloud Step all the time, and I use Cloud Step defensively all the time. It has a quick cooldown. I had one of the armors on that makes the cooldown even faster every time you perfect dodge. So yes, pairing that together, my cooldowns were really low, and I also had Cloud Step beefed up enough where that it would last long enough that when I finished using it, like when it turned itself off, I would almost be ready to use it again because the cooldown was almost finished. So I'd be like, okay, I'm about to get hit by something. Cloud Step out of the way, take a drink from my flask, then prep a big heavy attack, charge that heavy, charge that heavy, charge that heavy. Oh, my Cloud Step about to run out. Slam that heavy, and then the guy is staggered. Keep hitting, and you just repeat this process because that is how the game functions. And like I said, you use the freeze spell, which is called Immobilize. I just keep saying freeze, it's faster. You use that and you keep up. The game is really good. The game is really solid and really fun. Once you understand those points, bosses are going to go down pretty quick. You don't really need to grind. I didn't grind that much. Actually, I should say I didn't really grind at all. But I did do the same thing I do in pretty much all Neo Souls-esque games, whereas I like to explore and I like to find all the bosses and all the little things. So I pretty much kill every enemy on screen. So I didn't really grind per se, in air quotes. Like I didn't go out and like do runs for grinding, but I did kill every single enemy I encountered, or at least try to, at least one time. So that is kind of grinding. By the end of the game, I was level 100. I only did one playthrough, but I got both of the 2 endings of the game. You can get both endings without doing more than one playthrough. Now, obviously, if you want to platinum it, you need to do more than one playthrough. But you can get both endings without doing 2 playthroughs. It's very simple. Follow this step. Beat the final boss. Beat the final boss. Then go back, because you can load up your save. It does not go right to New Game Plus. Load up your save again. You'll be right at the end of the game, and you can go back to go find the secret boss that unlocks the true ending. Then you fight that secret boss. Then you go back to fight the final boss, and you get the true ending. So guess what? You can get both. It's perfectly easy. It's fine. Just don't start New Game Plus when you beat the game. You can go back and get the true ending. You can do it in one playthrough. That's what I did. It's really fun. It's really good. I highly recommend it. Because the secret boss and the true ending is just a spectacle to behold. It is one of the most awesome fights I have been in a fighting game, in a action RPG, action adventure game I have ever seen. It was so good and so much fun. So, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This game was really good. It's really well made. The graphics are really, really beautiful. The gameplay is really tight. The game just feels really fun to play. There are plenty of bosses to fight and kill. You're going to have a good time with it. If you like action-adventure games like Devil May Cry and Ninja Gaiden and Bayonetta, you're going to like it. And God of War, you're going to like this game. Also, if you like Souls games, because it has some Souls elements sprinkled in, you're going to like this game. And if you like action games in general, you're probably going to like this game. So, yeah, I highly recommend it to anybody that likes those kind of games. It's a really good game. It is very solid. And hey, if you want to brush up on Chinese mythology, it doesn't hurt. It's a really good game. And well, that's that.
Okay, well, that was my raw review. Thanks for listening, and if you liked it and want to hear more, you can like and subscribe. But I'll be back here regardless whether you like it or not, with more Raw Dog Gaming Reviews. See you next time. Bye-bye!